Unfortunately for me, the clip going around the internet of Ian Hislop humiliating Gary Neville on BBC One's Have I Got News For You opened up on one of my social media feeds this morning. I didn't watch the full episode because I don't pay the licence fee, and I haven't for several years, as I've got no interest in watching Marxist propaganda, and I'm certainly not prepared to pay for it. If you didn't see the clip, and I wouldn't suggest that you seek it out, it involves Hislop skewering ex-footballer Gary Neville for choosing to commentate at the World Cup in Qatar despite the dubious human rights record of that country. The decision to hold the World Cup in Qatar has got absolutely nothing to do with Gary Neville, of course. He could choose to give up his commentary job in protest, but that would be an utterly futile gesture. He'd simply be replaced by some other, admittedly probably more likeable ex-footballer, and the tournament would proceed as planned. No one would bat an eyelid, no one would give a toss, except Gary's wife and kids, who might wonder why he's put himself out of work. It was pretty pathetic to see Hislop rip into Neville, like watching someone beat a dyslexic at Scrabble, then do a victory lap of the living room. Absolutely worthless. Having said that, Neville has long been overdue this sort of ridicule. He's been whoring himself around various media platforms for a few years now, flashing his virtue-signalling socialist credentials, parroting whatever fashionable woke claptrap he can crowbar into the conversation, presumably laying the groundwork for a future political career with the Labour Party. The man's a hypocrite of low intelligence, but when you witness that, mixed with Hislop's showboating sanctimony, it's hard to hold down the vomit, because let's be very clear, Hislop gladly takes his fat paycheck from the same BBC that is choosing to broadcast extensive coverage from the tournament in Qatar. Difficult to call out the hypocrisy of others when you've got your snout in the same trough. There's 100 other platforms where Hislop could ply his unpalatable trade, but he's choosing to do so on the Qatar World Cup sponsoring BBC. So there are several levels of hypocrisy to contemplate here. And on the most basic level, watching Hislop humiliate Neville is essentially watching a posh boy bully an oik, which is undeniably putrid, whatever way you look at it. And yet we expect nothing better from the BBC, do we? Thankfully it can't survive in its current execrable form, so let it perish quickly, and good riddance to bad rubbish.